Well, Margaret, I think we should start by talking about how you started and the vision and why you thought it was a great idea to start Karinya House.
Well, we started in 1992. I just had my third child, and I realised that there was a huge amount of work involved with having children, and I knew that I had a great deal of support. Wonderful husband, parents around the corner, and financially secure. And there were articles appearing in the newspaper which had highlighted that some young women were living in cars who were expecting babies. They weren't suitable for refuge accommodation, and I realised that there was nowhere really that would support them in their pregnancy and in their early time after they'd had the baby. Pregnancy support was available. It was an organisation, but it was really mainly a telephone counselling service. So my idea at the time was to provide an actual bricks and mortar home with support and services to support women who were having children under very difficult circumstances. And from there we chose a name, Karinya House, meaning peaceful home, an Indigenous name. And then we set up the charitable status and the constitution that my dad, Brian O'Donovan, drew up for us and exists to this day. And so it took us till 1997 to get the funds together, and we advertised for a full-time person with a social work background, and that's when we actually got the marvellous Mary Louise.
The most important part about that I loved about applying for the position and actually securing it was starting from scratch. It was starting from the beginning, and then we could build it as we needed to. And the whole idea of working with women and children and women that are pregnant or having with little babies was a great, that whole idea of homelessness and women was something that was very dear to me. I'd previously worked in Western Sydney and seen lots of disadvantage, and I think we think of Canberra and think it's probably a fairly privileged location, but it was pretty extraordinary, the amount of homelessness even at that point, and need. Our first resident moved in, it was before Christmas, so I think it was November. So we opened on the 29th, or I started work on the 29th of September 1997, and she moved in November with a baby at that point. It was a woman also from Queanbeyan, which was interesting because we also had from the earliest days a policy that we weren't going to just take women from the ACT, we would take women from the surrounding region as well, which to date that has been our policy, which is incredibly important because homelessness doesn't stop the water. So that was very important. So she moved in with her baby at that point, and I think pretty well from then we were full after that point.
And then you changed from living there to developing a very complete sort of night service overnight, weekend service back up with the board. So all of those things evolved, and quite seamlessly really it seemed to me from the outside.
I think we secured some government funding through the Department of Health and the ACT, probably about 2001 from memory. That was our first contract, and then we had a joint contract then with housing. So housing and health both had contracts with us at that point. So we were getting some government funding, but still to that point our major funding came from donors and fundraising. The car raffle was still going to that point for a number of years afterwards and would raise significant amount of money. The other hallmark at that stage was we made a decision, even though it was quite costly, to have staff at Karinya at all times. So when I left for the day, there would be a support worker that would come in of an evening and sleep over so that she was available for the women, and that continues to present as well. We also had started to increase the number of staff we had during the day. So Anne Brown joined the staff as our first midwife. We had a couple of other social workers that joined at that stage too. So there was a number of women that we were working with who we couldn't accommodate or who had partners that were supportive, so we looked after families, or who were living in other places, so or had other children that we couldn't accommodate. So we did a lot of outreach work. Then another place in Girralang became available, and the government leased us the place, the other second house in Girralang. So we ran 2 houses, then right through until 2016, when we opened our purpose-built facilities. We had 4 units, 3 cottages and a whole supported accommodation area where we could accommodate another 4 women and their babies. The greatest thing about having the purpose-built facility and the separate accommodations, we could have women with other children there, which we were never able to do before, so that was wonderful. And also an area for the staff were out, because at that stage we had health professionals coming. There was rooms for counselling, support, for maternal and child health to come in. So it was just marvellous.
So starting off in 1997 with one, yourself as the coordinator, how many staff now are at Karinya House?
I think 26, Margaret. From when I retired, there was 26. I remember speaking about that. That was in March, and some obviously part-time or casual overnight. And we've obviously in that time had hundreds of staff and volunteers that have contributed to Karinya. I think the other thing that's probably fairly important to say at this point is that we started off in a very small way, but that same ethos and vision hasn't changed. It's touched everybody that we've been involved with, whether it be our stakeholders or our donors or our volunteers or staff. That care that we've had and compassion as an organisation has been very significant.
So any reflections on leaving, the staff that you're leaving Karinya House with now?
The greatest reflection is it's in very strong hands. As you know, we have an amazing staff team, and that's been the hallmark of Karinya right through. So from that first time, from that first woman that came to Karinya in 1997, in November 1997, at any one point now, Karinya cares for 40 to 50 women, 11 residents and outreach women at any one time. The most significant thing to me really is the inspiration that those women have created for the organisation. They are really our essence and the reason we're there. They're the heroic, brave women that decide to, against all odds at times, decide to continue their pregnancies, raise their children, leave violent relationships, create their new life and world with their child. And we just create that opportunity. So that's very significant to Karinya, and it always has been our hallmark to do that in a very compassionate, non-judgmental way. That's Karinya's way as well.
Karinya is very much part of my life. I've been working at Karinya since 1999. I've actually been at Karinya for almost half my life. Karinya is also a family to many people. It's a family to me in many senses, and I've grown up at Karinya House, but I've also seen some amazing women grow to be the most amazing mums they can be while being at Karinya.
Karinya's a fairly integral part of my life. I've worked there now for nearly 18 years. It's an integral part of my whole family's life. My children have grown up always with me working there, and the family's been involved in fundraising events and all sorts of different volunteer experiences. So it's a place that's really close to my heart, and I just love working there.
Being part of the Karinya Village, I think, has defined me and my life, and also the life of my family. And everyone that I come in contact with, it's almost like it's become a part of my identity. And I'm so proud and at the same time very humbled and also very privileged to be a part of that Karinya Village, because to have the opportunity to work with people who are in a position to change lives for the better, I can't think of anything more rewarding.
And over the years I've had many conversations with a lot of the women that we work with, and they always comment that Karinya is a home, and sometimes a home that they've never had before, and it's a safe place, and I think that's a really important thing for what Karinya does in the community.
Working at Karinya House is an absolute privilege. The women that I work alongside, the staff and the volunteers, all have such a passion for the job, and it's just lovely to work in an environment where there's people that just care so much for others in the community. And the women are a complete inspiration. They're seeing them overcome their struggles each day is just wonderful. It's often also the little things that you see on a day-to-day basis that actually have the greatest impact.
It is so unique in the Canberra community. There is no other charity that does the work that we do. And I believe that it is a combination of the compassion and the consideration and the respect and dignity that each and every person that I work with, whether they are employees of Karinya House or they're with us in a voluntary capacity, they all have this unique ability to carry out this duty of care with such unconditional love, and I think that is unrivaled.
So the reason I've been at Karinya for so long is for a number of reasons. In particular, is watching the women that we work with turn into the most amazing mums that they can be, and that is such a uplifting experience to see mums be the best mums they can be. I've been very fortunate over the years at Karinya to be at many of the births of some of these amazing babies, and I think watching that baby come into life and watching that mum be the mum that she can be and is going to be an amazing mum is so fortunate for me to be part of that. It's also part of the Karinya team that the women we work with, our colleagues, are also part of our family. So they're the real main reasons why I have been at Karinya for such a long time.
We try and create a real sense of community and family, and I think that Karinya does that really well. I think that the women feel safe, just like they would in any family, and I think they really feel the support that they would get in any family.
When I think about my time at Karinya House over these 18 years, again, I'm so humbled and privileged to have been part of such an incredible organisation of great change. What I witness on every level is the incredible staff and volunteers and the work that they do every day with women. And I've often said that I am very privileged to be on the committee and oversee the work that Karinya House does, but I'm not at the coalface. I'm not there with the women that we're walking alongside every single day. And I'm so grateful to our incredible staff that are so gifted and professional and are able to walk with these women and change their lives. And I think that when we hear the stories of these women that have moved on and they are so grateful, and some that have been with us from the very beginning and have come back to work with us, I believe is so telling in what Karinya House does to people's lives, and to be a part of that is such a gift.